Unscripted, unshackled, uncouth.
What you're about to hear is for more mature audiences only.
It's Miguel and Holly, Uncensored.
Here we go on a Friday of a short work week. Hopefully it was for you. And I feel like normally these weeks go by very slowly, but I felt like this week has gone by fast.
Yes, I agree.
Like we packed a lot in real quickly, real tight.
I agree.
And I'm not mad at it.
No.
Holly, how are you doing?
I'm all right. Feel a little off right now. I don't know.
What's wrong?
I don't know. I just feel weird. I realized I have a therapy appointment at 12:30 today, and then I was like, oh God, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. But then I started stressing out about, like, I probably should talk about something, but what exactly am I going to talk about? Maybe it's going to be about my mom, but I just feel like not talking. I just feel like going and taking a nap instead. So that all was just going through my head.
That is such a thing too. I would remember, like, I wouldn't look forward to therapy on just certain days, not because I was sad or anything. I just didn't feel like talking.
Right.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't really know.
That's our jobs, maybe. It's our jobs.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I get that. I mean, there are times, just juicy little tidbit, hobosexuals. She's talking about Queen City Confessions, if you missed it.
I was literally like, what?
Yeah.
What?
If you listen to just the podcast, I implore you to please this weekend at some point go to Miguel and Holly Full Show, or you can just type in Queen City Confessions wherever you listen to podcasts on the iHeartRadio app. And it was yesterday's Confessions, Thursday. So that would be September 8th.
Yeah.
The confession that we had, like when I saw it come in the day before, I was like, what the actual? And then when we read it, it hit me again. And it was like, it just came in waves. And then I watched it again last night on Instagram. And I was like,
I need to watch it again and maybe see if my reaction is the same. Like, I'm sure it's going to be, but I want to see if my face makes the same reaction.
yeah. So juicy little tidbit, shouting out to the hobosexuals in Charlotte. But yeah, listen to our podcast or our Full Show podcast anywhere if you don't. So Holly, I have a feeling, because we didn't get a chance to talk about this on Wednesday, that you have sort of updates about your mother's situation, because we haven't been able to talk about it on the on-air show.
Right.
We don't have a place for that type of material just yet, as the audience is still getting to know us.
Yes, exactly. And also there was a, like, we follow in the industry, there's like the trades of like radio stuff and all these experts on what you should and shouldn't talk about. And one of the things they're like, okay, there's a pretty short list of what you can't really talk about on the air. And having a parent or a grandparent with dementia or Alzheimer's is one of them. So avoid that, because it's just not funny and nobody wants to hear about it. I'm like, valid though. Valid.
Okay, so yes, I absolutely understand. But at the same time, though, with the type of show we do, that is a big part of your life. And so it's one thing if you were like, all right, everybody, here's my daily dementia update or daily Alzheimer update.
Right.
Like, or if you're like, all right, we're going to take 30 minutes and talk about these really sad. But a lot of people are living with that situation with a loved one. And so I feel like from our experience and things that we've talked about that a lot of morning shows wouldn't touch.
Yeah.
You're going to have people that go, oh, wow, I'm not the only one that goes through that. Or
Hopefully,
someone that goes, wow, I can understand what you're going to because I'm a human.
Yeah,
So to me, it's all about how you talk about it, so it's not like we're going to come on our on-air show in Charlotte and be like, all right, girl, we're going to push trending in the Queen City aside. Holly, make us sad on Monday, girl. What's going on?
This is going to be sad Mondays.
Yeah.
Mom update. Can you imagine?
No, I don't even want to do that. Like, that sounds terrible.
It's Holly's mom update on
Charlotte's Hits 96.1.
It's Miguel and Holly.
Stop it. I can't. Oh my God. Well, there's that.
Yeah, there you go. The levity.
Yeah.
So
fine.
what is going on with Miss Margaret?
Well, so the last time don't even remember the last time we talked about this really. I really don't. I think honestly, the last time we really got into it about my mom was like back when I had a whole breakdown about it months ago.
Mhm.
That's what it feels like to me, but maybe I've updated in between. I don't remember. So here's where I'm at. On Wednesday, I had to meet her at her neurosurgeon's office. For those that are in the new, like the new Charlotte listeners, like fam Platypus Posse, it's a long story, but she's not well. So she's at a memory care unit of an assisted living facility. She moved in there in August, and I'm so thankful. I'm so grateful she's there. And it's been about a month. And I just feel like I finally have been able to breathe in the last month. Unlike I was not breathing. I was in survival mode for the better part of this year when it comes to my mom and that whole situation. So on Wednesday, I met her. She had like a lady transport her because it was the timing. That's why like on Wednesday's podcast, I would have loved to have gone longer into like our Labor Day weekends and stuff, but I had to get to this appointment because the lady from the assisted living place brought my mom to the doctor's appointment and I met them there. And then I was going to take my mom back. So we have this appointment and it was just so like, it's just so exhausting and difficult. And that's what I'm realizing. So while I was in survival mode over the, past 6, 7, 8 months with my mom, I never really stopped down to like be in that moment. But in this past month of being able to breathe and take a step away from it because like a facility is taking care of her 24/7 needs. And I don't have to worry about making sure they're doing it because that the place she was at before, it was an absolute shit show. And I had to be on it all the time. Well, this place is great. Like it's just top of the line. I'm so happy we were able to get there. And so I'm like, I don't worry about like, is she in danger? Or like, her needs are being taken care of.
Such a game changer when you actually have a good, decent place to put your family member in. I remember when my grandfather in South Florida, we had to have him move at least twice. I mean, at one point they called us and said he was dead, and then they called us up later and said, "Oh, sorry, wrong person."
What the fuck?
I know.
Like how
He died shortly after that, but still.
but no,
But still,
the trauma of like
twice.
everyone goes into like, all right, here's pass away mode, and then to take it back.
Nope.
My gosh.
Yeah, the place makes all the difference.
Yeah.
So that's good. But just like having to be with her is difficult for me right now, just in general. And maybe like, I don't know, make some notes so I can take into my therapist. Because I just don't know, like I'm a little bit overwhelmed by all of it. So I had that thing on Wednesday where I spent all in all about 2 hours with her. And it was just like, by the time I left the facility, like her memory care living place, I was walking and then I realized I was like walking faster. And then I realized by the time I was getting close to the door, I was like running. I ripped my mask off when I got out there and I was just like, I'm done for at least a few days. And I try to go at least always once a week, but I try to go about twice a week. But I haven't been like twice a week. I've been about once a week for the past couple weeks because I dread it. Like I can't bring myself to do it, which I feel terrible about. And so this 2-hour visit, which included going to the doctor and then back and like whatever, it was so emotionally taxing. And then I'll pair with that the fact that, and I told my brother I was going to do this because we've decided she's not getting her phone back. And he's like, well, keep the phone. I'll just shut, because he's got her on his plan. He's like, I'll just shut that line off, or I'll like suspend the line. That way, if we ever need to, we can turn it back on, but we'll just suspend. I'm like, you're paying for nothing right now. It's like a brick at my house. And my mom brought it up to me on Wednesday and she was like, well, I can't even call anybody. And I'm like, I know. I'm like, but if you tell someone, like, they'll call me. She's like, they don't know your number. I'm like, no, they do. Everybody knows my number. Everybody knows who I am. Even if they don't know my number off the top of their head, it's in the computer and they know how to look it up.
Right.
But then she forgets that. So, but I'm like, I just can't give it back to her because the last time she had it was when she started calling people at 3 a.m, which, I mean, if it wasn't ridiculous and like Oh my God, it would have been very comical because like she just started calling at 3 a.m. and didn't stop till 3 p.m. until I got there and physically took it.
Oh my God. Who was she calling?
Every damn body in
It's
our
just
family.
going down the list of like,
Yeah.
all right, let's
Contact list.
right, let,
Yeah.
Ex-boyfriend.
let's start at
thankfully
Alan.
It wasn't like random, like people she hasn't spoken to in years. It was just generally family members, but like just everybody, like my person's mother, my Auntie Pearl, Patrick's wife, like everybody. She's just calling people, and it started at 3 a.m. And I'm like, we can't have that again. We just can't.
No.
So I have the phone, but I told my brother Patrick, I was like, well, don't turn it off, because I talked to him a few days ago. I'm like, give me like, a couple days. I'm gonna post on Facebook from her account. And I don't know where the password is, but I do know that it's logged in on her phone. And that was a train wreck too, but whatever. So yesterday I sat down, I had like 20 minutes. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to post an update on my mom's Facebook and be like, hey, it's Holly, Margaret's daughter. Just wanted to update you because at least one or two of her friends have been in contact with me and like, what's going on with Margaret? I tried calling her and if it's either goes to the voicemail or just rings and rings. And I'm like, obviously my immediate family knows what's going on, but like some of her friends or like some of the people in Ohio or maybe our extended family, they have no idea what's going on.
Right.
And I say that from like the beginning, I would say from a year, like, and especially since February, like people don't know that it has been a complete just whirlwind. So I started typing yesterday and typing on my mom's Facebook, and I'm typing. And then pretty soon I got so lost in the weeds and I felt like I was getting defensive on this post. From who? I don't know. Like I was like, well, and I'm doing the best I can. Like I was like, hold on. So I had my boyfriend read it. He's like, he gets his little glasses out and he's like, first of all, why is this so long? He's like, I just tried to see how long I had to go. And I'm not what is this? I'm like, I don't know. I just feel like, I don't know. And he's like, starts reading and he's like, this is so much detail. He's like, plus you're making like your assumptions on what she has. And like, you're putting your own opinions in and you're just really going on. He's like, just scrap it for now. Maybe come back fresh. I'm like, fine. I don't have time. I don't even have time to do it now anyway. I don't have time. So I don't even know what to say. And then I was like, well, how much do I say? How little? Like, what is it? Is some of this like her personal business? And then I'm just feeling like wounded about it. I think there's a lot to unpack. But long story longer, because it's not short now, I don't know what to say about it. I feel like I'm in this weird place of grief, but also anger and frustration.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm getting emotional about it even now, just thinking about it. Like,
so let's hold on. Let me back up. Because Holly, knowing you for so long, I know that when you are feeling some sort of way about stuff, you throw a lot of words out at something. And as I'm sitting here listening to you, and we are trained through years and years of coaching of like how to get to the meat of something. And so when you are nervous to say something, that's when you start talking around it.
mm-hmm.
So the meat of it, if I'm to assume here, is that you feel guilt for having your mom in this place. You feel sadness because the mom that you knew is no longer there and is not coming back. And you feel anger because you're 40 and you have a 9-year-old, and the time that you would be devoting to the joys and the heartache and the stresses of dealing with that is split in half with having to take care of someone that should be helping you take care of this 9-year-old. And so I feel like you have, and then probably too, the split the anger with that you have to do all of this by yourself, and that you don't have help, and that it's just you having to do all this all the time, and it's constantly there.
Yeah.
And so I feel like all of that interspersed with like just the fact that like your mom isn't well.
Yeah.
All of that is one big jumble of emotions, and it comes out into like, here's everything that's happening right now. Oh my God. And it's just like, your mom isn't well. She's not able to have her phone. If you'd like to contact her, here's the facility.
But I don't. I think it's got to be me though. I think
Right.
I don't
Oh,
know. I think I have to
absolutely.
be the go-between.
Right. I mean, well, if they, and I don't know how that works, but like, can
I don't
they,
either.
right. I mean, maybe that's a question. I mean, obviously they deal with this. And so
Right.
I'm sure there's a protocol because she's not the only one that, probably can't have their phone with them
Right.
because
There's a
they
lot of
make
people
those
there
phone
that
calls.
don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure there's protocol and they can probably help you through it.
Yeah.
But I think that's what I'm feeling from you as you're telling the story is that you have all those emotions dealing with this and you just haven't had the outlet to be able to just like rah, get it out.
Yeah. No, that's it.
It is really helpful though for you to share this story because one, it's very relatable because a lot of us elder millennials are going to have to start taking care of our parents. And I don't know, I haven't seen many movies about it. I haven't really been educated about that. Like, there's no
They're not making
there's-
fun movies about that.
yeah, they're
Where's
not.
a Katherine Heigl movie about this? Okay, like where's she at?
And if there is, like, I would skip it. You know what I mean? Like, I
Who would? I would too because I don't want to be in that space.
Right.
Like unless I have to be.
so there's one person out there that is so appreciative of you sharing this very, very difficult time. But you're persevering.
Yeah.
You're doing the damn thing.
I am here and I'm very glad to be at this space where I finally feel like there's a little bit of calmness because it was so insane. I mean, and that's why I think I haven't really taken stock of all of the feelings. Miguel, you hit the nail on the head, obviously, but so things started to go downhill for her in like June of last year. That's when I really was like, something is wrong. Something is wrong.
Because when did you go out of town? And I looked in on your mom.
It might have been around that time.
Because I remember like you saying that, like we had
Right?
talked about it, and then you were like, "Hey, I'm going out of town." Because I remember you were wondering, you were like, "Should I go out of town? Should I not?"
Because
wanna
every
leave her
time I would go out of
home.
town, there was something that would happen.
Right.
Like, and then it was my friend Erin who was like, because I was at the airport. We took a lot of trips out of town last year on planes because of like weddings.
Right.
And one of them, she was so bad right before, like the day that I was flying out, I made it to the airport and I had like a complete panic attack. And I called my friend Erin and she was like, she does this every time you go out of town. She's like, I don't know if it's on purpose, but it's definitely a thing.
Mhm.
And that's when I realized yes, it's a not malicious, but it is a manipulative tactic for me not to leave.
Right.
Because like I had turned into her parent already. So I think Miguel, you checked in like a year ago. It might have been the June wedding.
But I remember like that, you talking about it on the podcast. And then when I actually went over there and I talked to her and I was like, well, this is a completely different woman than I've known for, almost 2 decades now. And just how her demeanor had completely changed and it was very childlike.
That's
and
good to know.
So
So you saw it.
Yeah, no, I absolutely saw it. I mean, just how she was like, I mean, and because she was supposed to go visit a friend. And I remember she was like, I'm nervous because of stuff. And I was like, what's gonna be okay? And I was like, well, don't worry about that right now. Let's get you your water, your medicine. Let me walk you back upstairs and let me help you with that. So no, and that was at the beginning of that. And so only knowing, the digression from, is that a word? No. The regression?
No. I know what you're trying to say.
Decline?
Decline. Let's go with decline.
Sorry, there we go.
With that. Yep.
How it could go from where I saw her when I looked in on her last.
Right. That was like a year ago.
Yeah.
And so that was when she was living at the house. And then like I would say it got to it was so bad by December of last year that I felt like I was going crazy. And so did my person. And then you've got Maya in the mix. And like we all it was so heavy. And then January comes around and February. And then by the time I was breaking. I'm like, I need a break. She's got to go to respite care. I can't handle whatever this is.
As
And then
Omicron is growing.
Yes, as Omicron is going. And like we're getting a new job, by the way. We're literally leaving our old job and starting this one at the same time. That morning I was supposed to take her to respite care. That it was like the very last day of February of this year. She had a complete mental breakdown. Like absolutely I was like, we're going to the hospital. Just nope, not doing this. What, am I gonna drop her off someplace else and be like, you all deal with it? No. So from February 28th until just about a month ago, it was in and out of hospitals and crazy and crazy. And that was like the you can't even breathe phase. So it hasn't even just been, it's been like over a year of very intense and a build and then just full blown crazy. So I have all these different feelings. Like, I just feel like I don't care. Like, and I don't want to be that way, but like, I just feel numb. Like I've had to shut it down. And I'm just like, I don't know this person. I don't know who this person is. But then you sometimes see it, but then it's like, I can't, it's just too much.
That's so trippy.
It's very trippy. Like, let me just give you an example. So like she, when I saw her Wednesday, what was it, like a normal thing? She was like, oh, by the way, I can't see my book that I'm trying to read. I can't read my book. I don't have glasses. I was like, you had 2 pairs of glasses. She's like, no, they broke. I'm like, oh, I'm like, no problem. I'm like, okay, well, I'll get you some new readers. I was like, are they 2.5, 3? She's like, I think 2.5 or 3. I'm like, okay, that sounds fine. And then she's like, we'll just completely, like, the train moves to the other direction. And then now she's like, they took it all down. And I'm like, I'm sorry? She's like, they took it out. They snatched it down. She's so fucking angry. Like the kind of anger that when I would see as a kid, like is triggering me into the personality that I've built as a human. That anger is what shaped me as a child. And I'm seeing it. She's like, they snatched it all down off my wall. And we're at the doctor's office. And I'm like, the stuff on your wall? Like the pictures that we have hanging on the wall? She's like, yes, they took it down. They took it down. I'm like, who took it down? And she's like, they did. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then, but I get it is a almost PTSD like response. It's like a fight or flight. I'm like, I immediately pull up my phone and I'm about to text my lady because I have this wonderful lady named Amy who is like works there. And she's like, text me anytime and I can update you on your mom. I'm starting a text. I'm like, my mom seems to think someone has taken stuff off of her walls. I know this is probably not the case. Do you have any clue where this might have come from? As I'm starting texting, mom's like, who are you talking to? I'm like, I'm asking the lady about the stuff on your wall. And she's like, well, they don't want you to know about it. And I'm like, I can't even finish the text at this point. I put it away. I'm like, all right. I'm like, so where's the stuff? She's like, I don't know. I have to move. I go, you don't, this is where you live. I said, that is your room. I go, we are paying. That is your room.
Right.
Ain't nobody else going in there.
In there, mama.
And so then like it switched and things, whatever. And she's yelling at me about these things. The doctor comes in, the physician's assistant. She's like, my mom is now crying about the things that are off the wall. And I was like, oh my God, are you okay? Like, why are you crying? And my mom looks at her and goes, I just miss my daughter so much. I'm so happy to see her. I'm like,
oh, what about the wall?
I was so dumbstruck that I looked at this lady. She's like looking at me and I go, Malaya's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't even in that span be like, I'm sorry. That's false. She was telling about the stuff that they just tore off the wall and nothing about me, but thank you.
She'll be like, no, it wasn't.
I was so floored. Like the switch. I was like, what the fuck? So anyway, after that doctor's appointment, which by the way, she's physically well. She's good. Long story on that other stuff, but nobody cares. So that, and then we get back to the place and I'm starting to feel nervous because she's like, I don't know where my stuff is. I'm like, she's like, they took it all down. I'm like, we get back into her area. I get a nurse and I'm like, can you let me into her room so that I gotta see what's going on in here. And the nurse is like, oh yeah, by the way, quick side tangent. I looked in her walker. She's got a walker. It has like a basket in it. You know, one of those things.
Yeah.
I had looked in it. Her entire CPAP machine is in the walker. The CPAP machine, the tubing, the face mask. I'm like, why is this in here? She's like, they were going to take it. I'm like, What? You're supposed to be using this. How long has this been in here? Because I was there on Saturday and this was Wednesday, I'm telling you about. And she's like, I don't know. I'm like, oh my God. Okay. So I'm like starting to panic. And the nurse is like, yeah, she took that CPAP. She put it in there. She has not let us touch it. Something happened. I'm like, well, I was here Saturday. They're like, that probably triggered something because she did that on Sunday. I'm like, oh God. We get into her room. It is bare. The entire room. Like she's got a roommate, but her side of the room, bare. Walls are bare. Bed is bare. There's nothing. There's no I have a lot of Jesus and Mary statues on the table. They're gone. I'm like, I go, Mom, did you take it down? Did you take this stuff down? She goes, well, they told me to. I was like, no, they didn't. And then she's so pissed. She gives me the death stare. She goes, how dare you question me? I'm like, well, they didn't tell you to do this because we're paying for you to be here. So I know that that's the case. And where's it? Where's your stuff? Where'd you put your stuff? She goes, I don't know where it is. And I'm like, we're going to look the room. Turns out she had shoved it all in one of these big ass garbage bags and hidden it in the closet.
Oh.
First of all, I was like, thank God that's where it is.
Right. And she didn't like throw it away or something.
She didn't throw it out. And the nurse was just like, yeah, she was pretty combative earlier this week. I'm like, that makes sense. And she's like yelling at me. And I'm like, sometimes I'm like, this is about my time to go, but I do need to put all this stuff up. So I like dig through it. There's photos of Maya. There's photos of me. I'm like angry, but I'm like, it's not her fault. But at the same time, I'm like, don't take this down. Don't touch this. She's like, I don't know. I think there's something wrong with me. And I'm like, yes, there is. There is something wrong, but please don't touch this stuff anymore. And so I put all the stuff back. And then she's like, well, I have no clothes. I'm like, because you took all the clothes and you put them in this bag. They're right here. So anyway, so all of that, by the time I left, I was like running out of this place.
Well, that makes sense why you were like, girl, I'm going to Forrest Gump out of here right now. Like, I am done.
I got everything else hung up. But then she's like, what happens is when I go to leave, she's like, you can only stay for 5 minutes. And I'm like, it's actually, but then I'm like, getting defensive is not helpful. I'm like, I know I do have to leave right now. And she's like, it just makes me feel like you just don't love me. You just don't love me. I never see you. And I'm like, okay. Yo, this woman, this is not just a dementia issue. This was a lifelong issue, but she never did it so flagrantly before. It was always very subtle. And that's why I'm such a people pleaser. That's why I have all the issues that I have, because her guilt level was with looks or, why don't you need to go help that person with that thing. And then like, if I didn't do it, it would be the look. So it's like, this was my life, but now it's just out in the open. So she's like, you just don't love me. And I'm like, no, I love you very much. She's like, you don't invite me to your house? I'm like, well, no, not right this minute, because we needed to breathe a minute. I'm like, we're going to come take you to dinner. And I think we're going to try to pull this off. We're going to try to take her to like a restaurant for dinner, like a quick one, not like a whole ass, maybe sit like down. Sonny's or something. And then that'll be maybe like once a month we'll do that. So I don't know. We gotta like really fortify ourselves in order to do that. But so the guilt then when I'm leaving. And so by the time I leave, I'm like, I don't know if I can do this in another 3 days. I might have to wait a week again. No, that makes sense. I'm going to talk about that in therapy, I think, today. Thank you for being my therapist, my pre-therapy therapy.
That's what Brent Holmes.
Holmes.
He's from South Florida. He used to listen to my previous morning show. He's good people's.
I love that. Oh, welcome to the fam, Brent. He said, that was my grandmother.
Yeah, and he mentioned up in the earlier comments that sounds like dementia. Yes, it does, which is what I've decided this is, but no doctor has given me a diagnosis for lots of different reasons. So she's undiagnosed, and it really sucks because when I wanted to do the update on Facebook, I feel like I can't even say, because I had all these things about how I'm sure it's dementia, even though the doctors won't tell me. And so my person was like, you're injecting your opinion. We don't have that diagnosis. So you probably shouldn't just put that out there. Like, you just have to say she's confused. The only thing anyone says to me is that, she's dealing with confusion. I'm like, no, fuck. Like, I'm confused. confused at this point.
Bitch, we all confused.
Everybody damn confused. Everybody. So it's just.
My aunt has that, but I don't know. At the same time, if your mom is forgetting stuff, that's no. Sorry, let me rephrase that. My aunt has schizophrenia,
Mm.
but she doesn't forget stuff. So that's the part where the dementia comes in.
Yeah.
You know? It's just tough all around.
It is. And what I think after some extensive research, because for a second I was like, because my partner has bipolar. And so for a second we thought maybe she did too and had just been hiding it all her life. But I'm like, I don't know about that. That doesn't run in our family at all. And that can often be hereditary. However, what I think has really like crisscrossed all of this is that I believe that a lot of this is caused by the brain tumor that she had in 2017. Like when they took that brain tumor out in 2017, and she had that whole hospital stay, it disrupted something because she was left with aphasia, which is an inability to get words out correctly.
Mm-hmm.
But that always, like, she was never quite right after that. Never quite, not the same person as she was before she went into that surgery. But she was okay enough that I was able to like leave Maya with her in the mornings when I went to work for, 2018, 2019. But then the pandemic hit and I was like, she can't homeschool her. So that's when my person got more involved with homeschooling. And then we took more responsibilities away from my mom because she was starting to not be able to handle them well. But the more responsibilities we took away, like the more she lost it because she needs to feel needed. So just it's all these things. And then additionally, when she had the second tumor that she just had removed in March, that was one of the things I think that pushed her real close to the edge. Every time she goes to the hospital, she has delirium, which I think we talked about in a previous podcast. And it just makes you very confused. Like you don't know reality. So the delirium plus what I believe was a slow build of dementia combined. And then the final, when her incision from the brain surgery in March got infected and she had to have another surgery in June and more anesthesia, that was it.
Right.
She crossed the line that she's not getting back. Period.
Well, all those things we don't take into account affect your body. And I remember someone, one of my grandmother's friends back in the day saying that like when you cut open someone, that is like your body is never the same after that. And especially with all of the cancers your mom had when you were growing up and afterwards. And then all of these tumors and everything that she's gone through. I mean, her body has unfortunately had all these different things happen to it. And it's all these. So not only is she dealing with the emotional trauma she's never dealt with of growing up, but then all of these like physical changes to her body she's had. And it's like, of course, she's in this like different parallel universe.
She's in a different reality
Absolutely.
most of the time.
Absolutely.
Most of the time. Yeah.
It's human life is scary and it's so fragile. And when you hear stories like that, to me, it really makes me look at how I live my life now and how we always say to ourselves, oh my God, I have to go to this party, or I have to go to work, or I have to do this thing. Our time is so finite and it is so small and it is so short that you never know when something like this will happen to your brain or to your psyche to where you're not living in reality. And so to me, it's like, why not take these moments that we have where we are healthy, God willing, and we do have the time or the resources to do the things that we want to fulfill our lives. Why not do it? Because you never know when that's going to happen.
Yeah. What makes you happy? I live in that a lot, and maybe I should try to, I think it's too fresh. Eventually what I'd like to do is impress that on people as like, lessons from someone who's seen a lot. Like, you gotta just live your life now. There's no putting off like, for 10 years, XYZ.
Right.
And I see it every time I visit this place. All these elderly people, I'm seeing all of your, older parents or all your grandparents or your aunts and uncles. And I see them and they're just existing.
Yeah. That's what I thought about. I'm sorry.
It's hard. Oh, no, I was just going to say it's hard to see it, especially in the memory care place, because I'm like, I wonder about all these other men and women in this place. And I'm like, what were their lives? And
Right.
like, who is coming to see them? And like, what must it be like? And what did they plan for their golden years to look like? 'Cause ain't nothing golden about this place.
Right.
Well, I mean,
So-
that's why I remember thinking this when my grandmother went through just her physical decline, is watching her in the hospital or at the facility she was in, and then when she was at my uncle's house, and then just watching this woman who I always have described, especially if you're new to the podcast, my grandmother passed away last year, and I used to always describe her like there's a scene in Harry Potter where they see Dumbledore like in action for the first time, and like Harry and Ron and Hermione, they're like, wow, like you could see the force, the magical force behind Dumbledore. And that's how I always described my grandmother, is she was like a silent force. And so then to see that silent force be shriveled up into this like woman who like couldn't say words and would sometimes, know that you were there, and then sometimes she was just, it was like nothing there.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, how many fucking times have I told my friends, you know what? I can't go on this vacation. I've got to do a radio thing. You know what? I can't go on this thing because I'll be tired. To me, I hope that when my grandmother was in that state, she was living in a place to where she was going through those fun memories in her head of like the time that she got to go to Hawaii and the time she went to go on a cruise. Because I'm not going to be in that state and be like, y'all, remember that blown off we did about the Aladdin? That was so funny. Like, oh my God. It's like, take these times now. So, because who knows what's happening in the brain at that point? Like, what are you thinking about?
What I can tell you from what I've seen, and this may not be true for everybody, but my mom is only reliving her worst nightmares.
Wow.
It is horrific. Like,
Right.
she's only reliving the traumas. She only wants to talk about the bad stuff. And I'm telling you, I think maybe I said this before, and this is not a professional diagnosis. This is not, I have no research to back this up. Not really. I'm not a doctor. The trauma that we do not clear out in life, by the time we get old, it gets so loud that it will be dealt with. And I think it's dealt with in that form. Like, the body keeps the score. There's a book called The Body Keeps the Score. When you suffer some kind of trauma and you don't deal with it, it's still there. Your body's holding on to that memory.
Right.
It is. And if you don't deal with it, and if you don't at least start looking at it and trying to heal or at least understand what happened, that was my mom. She's dealing with it now and has no capacity to deal with it. So it's just that this is her reality. Everything is her favorite word is terrible. This is terrible. These people are terrible. And I don't know what she's got going on in her head between like her talking bad about her own self and hating herself. And then it translates to thinking people hate her. And then it's just always negative. In fact, I've asked her multiple times over the course of the last year, I'm like, do you have any good memories that we can bank on? Like, do you remember anything good? Like, remember when Patrick was a baby and we had like fun with this? She's like, oh, that was good. And that was when your father was doing stuff. And I'm like, oh my God.
Oh God.
And it's so hard because you want to pop off on her, but you feel bad.
You have no
as
idea.
well.
Oh, and I'm a pretty patient person in general. I lose it. I have been like purposely mean to her, even as recent as Wednesday, because she won't stop. And it's like a trigger, and she like keeps pushing me. And I'm telling her, or I'm trying to be kind and I'm trying to explain, but I already have so much trauma that I'm trying to work through in therapy. So I'm angry at her anyway for the past stuff. I'm trying to deal with that at the same time, which is difficult. But she'll just push one time too hard. And I'm like, then who fucking cares then? Margaret, who fucking cares? And then I'm like, reel it in. This is not helpful for anybody right now. And I do. And then I'm like, okay. And we're back. And I'm like, okay, but where do we think it went? Where do we think our stuff went? And I'm just,
Well, that's because, I've always made the joke in the past that you can always tell when someone's parent calls them, like if you don't know who's calling them, because like if I called Kelvin, right, and Kelvin, I haven't seen you do this, so I don't know if this is true for you, but I'm assuming like if your fiance Oscar called, you'd be like, hey, lovey, how's it going? And if your parent called you, you'd be like, hey, what?
It's
Yes,
like annoyance.
what? Like every person I know, they get that tone with their parents. And so then
Mom, yes,
take
what is it,
that to
Mom?
where your parents are living in this like world where they're triggering you. Like my mom has those triggers with me that I can't imagine if she was in the state that your mom is in, Holly, that I would be like, Angela fucking Jackson, what are you talking about? Like, I can't
It's
imagine.
so hard not to. It's
Right.
so hard
Yeah.
not to. And like, you're the one person that's supposed to not, right? Like,
Right.
oh, it's so hard. It's so hard.
And
it's
even
so hard.
Brent, who dealt with that, said patience is something you have to have. I couldn't deal with my grandmother 90% of the time. I had no patience.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is juicy little tidbit. I don't know why her name doesn't come up. Probably your privacy settings. When we bring her comment up on the video for you listening to this. My roommate says I speak to my parents like we're in a conference call.
And
Juicy.
I get it. I get it as the one that is feeling like that. But then also I think about my own kid and I'm like, oh my God, like it almost makes me feel hopeless just as a human with kids. Like, I don't know how other parents feel, but like think about how you feel about your parents and like just the thought of my daughter being so angry or frustrated with me. I'm just like,
But
what's the point?
here's the thing though, is that like you've said before, we are our generation, millennials, some Gen Xers, and then for real Gen Z are the generational what do you call it? Cycle breakers.
We are indeed the cycle breakers.
We are the cycle
the first
breakers.
people to go to therapy and try to figure it out.
Right, because
Yeah.
my mom has said a couple of times, I think maybe I should go to therapy. And I want to be like, yes! Girl!
I'm sorry, what?
I can write a list of shit that happened to you in
Oh
your
my
life
God.
that you need to deal with. Like, yes!
Desperately. I wish my mother would even say that. Oh my
Right? And I was
God.
like, girl, what's your insurance? I will call them for you. But
Yeah.
like, so, I have my issues with my mom. She had issues with her mom. And like, I'm starting to work on that stuff now.
Yeah.
And so if I had kids, which I'm not, I would now
Oh.
be able to be different with them than she was with me. And like you are with your daughter. And so, yes, there will be things that your daughter will be like, my fucking mom, Holly O'Connor, always blah, blah, blah.
I know.
But she will be able to also say, I saw my mom work on it. I saw
tried.
my mom constantly trying to better herself, constantly trying to say, wait a minute, I know this is my first reaction, but here's how I'm dealing with it and doing better. And I
Yeah.
think that is the difference, is the
I
fact
hope.
that the generations before, because they didn't even know. It wasn't a thing. They didn't even know that something traumatic happens to you. Like, and I hope my mom, forgive me if you don't feel comfortable revealing this, but like she was kidnapped at once, like she had sexual abuse happen to her and then she was raped. And that's how I came about. Those are just 3 things that I know about. Who else knows what's there? And so,
Yeah.
of course, there's going to be things that's wrong with her, but she didn't know. Not one time after all those things happened to her did someone say, maybe we should talk about it.
Right.
Maybe we should seek some help. And so she's just been dealing with that on her chest. And so, of course, it's going to come out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Well, here's to the cycle breakers.
Absolutely.
Mm.
All right. Wait, hold on.
Sorry, you got to say something else,
Wait.
because I feel like that was just a big old dump.
No,
by
hold
me.
on.
It's Miguel and Holly
The Queen City's new morning show.
on Hits 96.1.
And coming up
It's-
next, we got Blown Off. Imagine our boss AJ Wood. That was live on air.
Yeah,
You fucking kill us.
It wouldn't be.
God.
We wouldn't. I would no longer. Nope, that's not.
You know what? We really need because we have jingles on our station, don't we? I
Yeah.
think we
right?
have. Yeah. So I'm sure at some point. So for you, those of you that you're not radio nerds, all of you. And some radio stations have the like hits 96.1 Charlotte.
Yes.
You
I
you
love
have
it.
those things.
I love a jingle.
Radio stations have that. So there's a morning show I used to listen to, and if depending upon where you've lived, you may have heard of Kid Craddock. from Dallas, and they were all over. Where he used to do this thing back in the day where they would talk about heavy stuff, and then he had this jingle, and they'd be like, and then they were all gone. Kid Craddock in the morning. And then they all started laughing, and it would like break the tension. We need one of those.
Yeah, we need a
Queen
tension
City's
breaker.
new morning show
It's Miguel and Holly.
on Hits 96.1.
I thought we did have a jingle liner somewhere. We got to find it. But really quick, I wanted to give a shout out to new Miguel and Holly fan member here in the Charlotte area. So new to the Platypus Posse, Brandy Allman Colby, who discovered our podcast. And I actually, when she messaged me, I thought she was Tampa fam because she was talking about like a March podcast that I had done about my mom. And I'm like, oh, thank you for staying with us. And she's like, no, I live in Charlotte, so I'm new to the fam. But I thought I would go back and listen to the podcast to learn more about you guys.
Oh.
I was like, thank you, Brandy.
She learned
So
a lot.
shouts out to Brandy. You got a lot today, girl. Sorry for all of that. But no, welcome though.
Yes. And that's what's been so cool is as we're going through on the Platypus Posse Facebook page and seeing the new Charlotte fam, because I mean, you gotta like go deep into the weeds with our show in the universe of the Miguel and Holly show to like find the Platypus Posse Facebook group.
You do.
So it's really cool to see that start to happen. And so welcome to Brent from the now Miami contingency of the show.
Miami contingency.
I brought one
love it.
person.
Yeah.
I brought one.
Hey, no,
That's right, Kelvin.
hey, I've seen some people because especially the Miguel and Holly Facebook page or Instagram, I'll go through if people like it or follow it and, see just where they are. And we have a lot of Tampa fam that are still coming on and liking and some of them, I love it how it's been almost a year, not almost a year, but or how many months?
7 or 8 months.
Yeah, 7 or 8 months. And they'll be like, where y'all been? I had to come find y'all. I'm like, girl, it's been since March, but that's fine.
That's fine. They got
fine.
stuff in life. You get busy. It's whatever.
Someone just messaged me yesterday. Hey, I never got like my $500 from what I won with you. Girl.
I'm not even in that city.
And I'm not.
You're like,
Not
girl,
with
I don't
that
work for that
company.
company no more. I'm
not in that city.
sorry.
No,
I'm
you need to
sorry.
call them.
problem.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna be nice, but I want to say that.
Okay.
Oh, no.
To break the tension before we leave, Holly, we need to go over the thing we talked about that restaurant and their menu.
Oh my God, yes.
Yes. So
oh God.
so obviously
hold on, let me
since
pull that over somewhere else.
9/11 is not happening during the weekday. We won't be doing like a whole segment or topic about it today
No,
on
we
our
will
show
not.
Friday or on Monday. But there is this trending story. Here's how not to talk about 9/11. And it's what this one restaurant tried to do with their menu items for their 9/11 specials.
Okay. So I couldn't believe this was real. I'm like, this sounds like a really off-color comedy like show. Like maybe this would have been on like Curb Your
SNL.
Enthusiasm or SNL or like not even Parks and Rec. Like I don't know. It's some show where they would like take it too far.
No, this to me sounds like if you ever watch the show Veep with Julie Louis-Dreyfus, this is
a
something
Veep storyline
that her staff would be like, hey, this is what we just put out for your special picnic we're doing for 9/11 victims. And then this is Julie Louis-Dreyfus' character getting to the convention and seeing what's happening.
So a country club in Virginia was planning a special 9/11 themed meal for Sunday, which is of course 9/11. But when the menu made the rounds online, there was a bit of backlash.
Mm-hmm.
The menu included such items as 9/11 oysters,
Oh,
first responder flatbread,
no.
Flight 93 redirect crab dip,
No.
What?
No.
freedom flounder,
Oh!
Pentagon pie.
Pentagon pie.
Like,
And this is the
imagine
worst
your
one.
parents.
This is the worst one. This is the worst
Oh.
one. 2977 chowder. By the way, 2,977 people were killed in the attacks. The menu also suggests chasing that down with a Remember Teeny with key lime rum cream.
No.
But if you can't decide, you could also try everything with the Hashtag never forget sampler.
Oh, I'm gonna wash it down with my remembered teeny.
It's Miguel and Holly.
Charlotte's Hits 96.1.
I can't.
By the way,
it's-
they've pulled the menu.
Oh,
Did you, want to
they?
hear, did you want to hear what the manager said?
Good
What,
lord.
what could you possibly say to that? What could you possibly say?
My intention was to bring attention to that horrific day 21 years ago to honor those who lost so much as well as those who gave everything that day. With the never forget sampler, sir!
The remembered teeny.
And okay, and so here's to me is what makes me just go, what was the breakdown? So I'm assuming this probably isn't a big staff. So it's maybe 2 or 3 people.
Sure.
Was there not one person who was like, hey, Brian, do you think this may be a bit much? Like maybe we should just give a discount to first responders.
Yeah, or like
maybe
active
we
duty
should-
military.
Yeah, or maybe we should donate to one of the charities that do like the, the stairs.
Yes.
Maybe.
No. But literally every single person on that staff went ahead and had printed
Oh no.
the first responder flatbread.
The flatbread.
Yes.
Flat bread. Like, I'm sorry. Like,
Yeah.
not one single person, not one human being looked at all of that mess and went, is this too much?
Yep.
Is this too much? Like, I hate to be that person, guys, because there's always a person. Like, I've been that person. We had like, I don't even want to say what it was because it was too much. We had a thing that our old radio station was going to do, and they're like, here's what you guys are going to do for this particular holiday. And I went, given the climate,
Wait.
I don't, should we be doing this? Because it feels like we shouldn't. They were like, oh, maybe we'll pull it.
I'm not gonna say what it was, but it had to do with Cinco de Mayo.
Oh God.
Yeah. So I felt scared because everybody, and I don't think Miguel really paid much attention to it. All the salespeople were kind of like gung ho on it already. They had like sold it already. And I was like, not to be that person.
Well, it was
But
part
I
of the
don't know.
promotion of what
Yeah.
they were trying to get Holly and I to possibly be on a Billboards doing.
We were like, and they were like,
Oh.
yes, we're going to do this on the billboard. And I was like, I don't think that's probably great. I mean, it's fine if y'all think it's great, but I don't think it's great. I feel like, where was that person on this staff?
Right.
No, not
No.
one, not
No.
a single one of you thought
Too much.
maybe
they were getting a kick out of it. Because let's be honest, we're laughing, but not at what it is. It's just the uncomfortableness.
the
Mhm.
uncomfortableness that like a human came up with this and legit thought it was a good idea. Like that's what we're laughing at.
Right.
Mm.
And they literally thought it was the funniest thing ever.
I
That's
guess.
wild.
Wow.
To remember Teeny.
All right, let's go.
Okay.
All right.
I'm
So
sorry.
no, it's fine. For you watching right now, this is where at some point you should hop on to the Miguel and Holly podcasts on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, because at the end of this, we are actually going to put the interview we did with a friend of ours that actually is from the UK, lives in
Mhm.
Charlotte, and just happened to be in the UK for a wedding. And
Yeah.
so we played a little bit of our interview with him this morning, but there was a longer part of it where we went into more detail that we're going to put on to the end of the podcast. So if you're interested in everything that's happening with the royal family and to have a perspective from someone that lives in Charlotte, but is actually there visiting, boots on the ground, definitely take a listen to our podcast. And please give us a 5-star rating. And Juicy Little Tidbit said, does my name show now? It does not. It just says Facebook user with a very anonymous looking face.
Sorry, girl.
All right, cool. Well, thank you all so much for watching. For you listening, hold tight. This is our interview with our friend